This that not quite. We're not ready for that yet. This episode of the Off-Road Podcast is sponsored by Warren, Medical Gear Outfitters, and Colby Valve.
Off-Road Podcast 400, all about us.
Tonight, Aaron talks to lunch meat, Coy crawls around, and Ben is yelling at some kids.
Welcome to the Off-Road Podcast, a podcast about everything off-road. We cover news, review products, interview people in the off-road industry. Your hosts tonight are Aaron and Coy. That's me. And Ben should be joining us later. Welcome to the show.
There you go. You almost nailed it on your first try.
It's better than Ben's average. I mean... Aaron, can you believe that we've actually hit 400 shows? I mean, it feels like I just started officially hosting like a week ago. Like they grow up so fast, you know?
They grew up so fast. Yeah. Yeah, it does feel like just last week when you started coming on as a legitimate host, not just a guest host. Yeah, it goes really quick, especially for you. Yeah, we're 400 shows in, dude. That's a big accomplishment, I would say.
It's a big number. I wish Ben could be here with us, honestly, but you know, now that I'm a full-time host, there's some changes, and Ben had to go.
I mean, is that what it is? You just like
he had to go. Sorry, he had to go coach like his kids' soccer or baseball. He's coaching something for many children.
I see. Gotcha. So he's just not here tonight?
He says he's gonna be here. We'll see though. What time do you think he shows?
Let's see. So it's 7:00 our time right now. It's 7:02. He said he'd only be a little bit late. I'm gonna guess 7:38. So that a little bit late in Ben speak is 38 minutes.
38 minutes. I'm going no call, no show. I don't think
no call, no show.
Yeah, I say this is gonna be a fireable offense tonight.
Well, make sure you get that note written to HR. Don't just let it go. Don't let it slide by. You have to make sure it gets turned into HR, otherwise it doesn't count.
It's true. Yeah. Do you have anything, cryptic and epic to say now that, you've reached 400? Like, this is more your accomplishment than mine. So, like, hit us with some of that motivational stuff.
Some motivational stuff. Well, this show would have never got here without me. How's that? Is that what you're looking for? I don't know.
That'll work. Yeah. It wasn't for my outstanding genetic disposition, charming smile, sharp wit, you would have never made it without those qualities.
No, that's I don't think that's entirely true. It was a long road, and it's taken a lot of dedication to do this. We've pushed stuff off and pushed people out as far as other things that happen on Monday nights where people are like, hey, let's do something. In fact, I just got invited tonight to talk on a ham radio net for the first time. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I can't. I'm doing a thing called a podcast. So, yeah.
Is that, you think, what's nerdier? Like, did you just out nerd ham radio guys? Were like, oh my God, I wish I had a podcast. I'm over here just talking on my ham radio.
I hope so. I hope I just one up ham radio nerds like that. That would be amazing. Eric wants to know how much cash we've made in the past 400 shows. I still am waiting for my check, and I can't find my red stapler.
Well, the nice thing about doing podcasts is you can do it cheaply with real cheap equipment, or you can be like me and have a board, some real nice mics, a couple of computers, and a camera. So I'm assuming that my equipment should be paid off in 2032 is what I'm forecasting right now. So
yeah, exactly.
That's not counting my internet bill, Must take
Josh must have joined a little late. He said that we pushed Ben out too. No, Ben is at Coy says he did, but he's at a soccer game. He said he's going to be just a little bit late. We've put a wager out. I said he's going to be here at 7:38. Coy says he's just not going to make it, period. So we'll see. What have you been up to, Coy? What have you been up doing?
I haven't been up to a lot. Again, me and the kids got the RC crawlers out and we went to Salem. They got a little 24 scale there. Hit that, went down to Junction City. They've got an epic 24 scale, which that's what I was going to do, is download the pictures so I could show you. But you know
that'd
what?
be great.
Use your imagination. It's rocks and things but it's massive. It's like 3 dining room tables pushed up against a wall, basically, with like a 4-foot bench, kind of a giant E shape. And I don't know. It's like model train stuff. I don't know if you ever seen like the model train guys where they build grass and buildings and water towers.
Yeah.
It's like that, but you're wheeling through it. They got mud pits,
Okay.
but the mud pits aren't mud. They're actually like airsoft BBs. But when you
Huh.
drive in it, it'll still bury it and you can burn out. Like I don't know. It's pretty cool. So took the kids there and then we went back up to Salem, hit Northwest Hobbies, did some more crawling. So we hit every indoor crawl
Wow.
place in my county and the next one over. And
That sounds like a good time.
yeah, it was a decent Saturday.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good time.
And then I just have to share this because I did the most ultimate photo bomb of my whole life. It was like the most perfect one. And I'm sharing it because it's a big deal for me because I like to photo bomb people. I took my kids to Get Air. It's like a indoor trampoline park for one of their friends' birthdays. And there was a ramp and then a stairs, like a handicap ramp. These 2 ladies are leaned up against the railing for the ramp. It's kind of a wall railing, and they're on the stair side. I'm walking up the ramp, and I see the phone come up into selfie, that 45-degree Hell Hitler, but with a phone. They're up there with that, and they're about to take the photo. But I'm passing behind them, and I just like drop down to one knee. My head is 8 inches behind theirs, just perfect between their heads. I see the phone flash, like they take the picture, and I just stand, turn, and walk away. They didn't
awesome.
catch it till they're actually looking at the phone, and I was just busting up laughing. So
Eric wants to know if they rent RC crawlers and stuff at those places, or if to always bring your own.
I honestly don't know because I've always brought my own. I know the one in Albany does rent some stuff, but I think it's going to be store by store. What about
There
you,
was
Aaron?
a slot car place in Tacoma, and you could rent their cars and run them in the slot car track, which was pretty neat. Kind of along the same lines as RC cars, but slot cars.
They actually, at both these places, they have the slot car stuff there too.
Do they? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I worked on the shop a little bit more, got a little more trim put up. I went and picked up a 12-foot ladder from somebody, because my 8-foot ladder and me standing on the very top of the 8-foot ladder not only was it not safe, but I wasn't getting high enough. I even backed my wife's pickup truck over to the shop and put the 8-foot ladder in the bed of the truck, and it still wasn't working out for me. So I borrowed a 12-foot ladder from a friend. So getting a little more done there. I'm thinking about 2 weeks out from getting garage doors. So we'll see, 2.5 weeks. I took the Frontier into town last week and got a alignment done on it. An official,
really?
legitimate alignment. Yes.
How long did that take
to get it aligned?
Yeah, like from when you needed the alignment. So it would have been not last year, but the year before.
The problem was that no, I got an alignment before we went to
That's
Moab.
right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I did get alignment before Moab. And then recently I've had to get alignment because I changed out all the hubs, and which included changing out the spindles. So I got a new alignment after that. So yeah. The problem is that no alignment shop is open on a Saturday, or I should say no alignment shop that will do modified four-wheel drive trucks is open on a Saturday. So I had to figure out a way to get my truck into one of these places. And being the type of electrician that I am bouncing around from job to job. And sometimes I'm knowing what I'm doing next week. And sometimes I know what I'm doing next week. And then the very next day they change what I'm doing. So um, I actually got burned. I had an alignment scheduled and then I had to cancel it. And then I could reschedule it 3 weeks later. So I finally got it done. Coy and I are going out in a couple of weeks. So I had to make sure that I got it done. So it's done. It's tracking smooth and straight. It was a little twitchy. Coy and I did a garage alignment on it, like we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Homebrew.
But homebrew, yep. And it got it tracking fairly straight. The steering wheel was a little crooked, but it felt a little twitchy. After they were done, it is a little more solid. I don't have sway bars up front or out back, and so it's going to be twitchy, especially on big tires and a lift. But it definitely was more planted once they were done with it. And then I talked about talking to lunch meat. Got my ham radio here, my Baofeng, and instead of having the little rubber ducky antenna on top of it, you see this long cord that's on top of the metal box back behind me. There's a mag mount antenna. So I bought a mag mount antenna for my ham radio so that I can get better reception, because inside of a truck, you don't get as good of reception as if you had an antenna outside of the truck. So I'm going to use that in a couple weeks with my trip with Coy. And then I actually have a legitimate mobile, I think it's a 40-watt mobile unit. And I'm going to start getting that mounted as soon as we get back so that I'll have
What's
it
the
ready
hold
for
up
the
with getting that
next trip.
mounted? Because those are like super easy to install generally.
It will. I guess it will be. I don't know. I just take forever to mount anything because of indecision, and I want things to look perfect and look really well. I want it to be solid and not have to ever deal with it ever again. So,
Does
that's
your
kind of
radio
why
have a remote face mount?
it does. Yep.
I feel like that solves all your indecision. You just like bolt that under the seat and send it, right?
Well, I've already got the CB radio under the seat with the remote mic thing. So
Oh,
all the controls for the CB are in the mic. So I don't know. We'll see what I do. I guess I could mount it under the passenger seat.
there you
We'll
go.
see.
I've always been worried to mount. I didn't remote mount my radio. It's up on the roof, but I've been worried because like if I ever got in deep water and got water on the floor, which I've seen
Oh, that's a good
it
point.
times, they're
Yeah.
not the most expensive thing. Like I'd probably have bigger issues if I got in water that deep, but just to throw a $300-400 radio on top of it does sound like it would be
Yeah, my radio is
not a good time.
540 bucks. Josh says that I pronounce antenna funny. Did I say it the same way this time, Josh? Antenna? Antenna?
Yeah, you
Maybe it's
do say it like you're saying Montana.
should it be antenna instead of antenna?
I feel like you're just mostly over pronouncing the T. I'm just like antenna.
See, you said it the same way, antenna.
Antenna.
Maybe it's antenna. I mean, it's an E, so it should be antenna. Antenna? I don't know. It's a West Coast thing, Josh. Oh, no.
Oh, crap.
Fudge.
I'm sorry, guys.
Not as sorry as we are.
Oh,
Technically,
man.
Aaron wins.
Yeah. My time was closer to yours. Josh says he was homeschooled, so he's clueless. Yeah, you homeschooled weirdos.
Oh, one of those.
Anyways, Ben, what have you been up to this week?
Let's see. I got the last of my gravel for the shop in. We did 4 runs. It was 20,000 pounds, so 10 tons of gravel. We got it all leveled out. Because I mentioned that it got moved forward, right? Did I say that on the
No.
last show? So I got a call.
If you did, we weren't listening.
Yeah, so I got a call last week that that the shop got moved forward a month. So
Oh, the date. I thought you meant the physical location got moved forward.
no. So the date got moved forward a month, and so we got it all leveled out, and then we just got gravel in.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's been about it. For me, off-road wise, it's just been the shop. Yeah, I'm boring. I've been yelling at children doing soccer coaching, so
That's what I put down for your tonight, Ben. Tonight, Ben is yelling at some kids.
that's exactly what I was doing tonight. So yeah,
That was perfect.
I was it's my older children. So like last week for practice, our last practice before games started, I went out there and I played with them, and I was not nice. Like I was,
Gotcha.
yeah. So yeah, that's been about it. Oh,
We also want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Patch. Head over to patriotpatch.co and check out their selection of great patches, shirts, cleaning mats, signs, and stickers. You can also join the Patch of the Month Club for $15 and receive a patch, matching sticker, and artist proof each month. And don't forget, we've got our patches. Here we go. Got to look for it. Got the Off-Road Podcast patch and the Lumen Locker patch. You can get any of those for $10 if you see us in person, or $13 shipped for the first one and $10 for any additional after that in the continental United States.
So the Poke Wars one, which was this one, I ended up ordering that one.
Okay.
And I thought I downloaded the image. Apparently I didn't, but here, let me grab it real quick. Oh, it's a weeb. That's why it's not showing on my computer.
That's right.
Well, here, I'll just go like this and share the screen. Boom. That's it right there.
Mm-hmm.
The Lucarion.
Is that Star Fox?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that Pokemon's Lucario Skywalker is what they're calling it.
Okay. So, you guys ever play Sly Cooper back in the day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
there's
then
this week's drop.
And this is this week's drop, which is Gengar. I know that.
Pokemon. Did you end up getting this R2 unit one?
I did end up ordering that one because I saw it was still in stock.
Yeah, so there you go.
I ordered it up. I was like, you know what? I might as well have all four because they're releasing in a set of 4. So you might as well
get
them all.
I'm going to be totally honest with you, Ben. Me and Aaron have been doing a lot of ham radio talk, and it feels super nerdy. But then you rolled in with this Star Wars and Pokemon stuff, and I just realized like what a dude I am. Like,
it's okay. I fully admit I'm a nerd. So yeah.
Have tire troubles ever left you deflated? Colby Valve has got you covered. Ever have a valve stem leak? Colby Valve makes reusable and easily replaceable valve stems that don't require you to remove your tire from the wheel. They work with your off-road rig, ATV, side-by-side, commuter vehicle, or even your tractor. Never be left stranded again because of a busted valve stem. They also have a tire repair kit for those punctures that keep you away from doing your favorite thing, wheeling. Make sure to check out colbyvalve.com or ask for them at your local off-road products store.
Eric says to tell Patriot Patch to stop making patches because his wife is making him give them away. You're supposed to put them on your headliner, not give them away, Eric. You're doing it wrong.
Why are you listening to your wife?
Aren't you? Yeah, that's even. Yeah. Well, our first news story comes from Car Scoops. Those are a lot like Tostitos Scoops, but it's for cars. It is Jeep Gladiators and Wranglers are recalled over exploding clutch plates. So the 2018 to 2023 Jeeps that are Wranglers or Gladiators, I think the Gladiators didn't start till 2020, are the vehicles affected here. There's almost 70,000 of them that are affected. So it says in documents filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, that under some circumstances, the clutch pressure plate can overheat due to friction. Yeah, it's not a big deal. You just get a hot clutch or whatever, it just wears out sooner. If that happens, the plate can rapidly fracture with enough force to crack or even puncture the transmission case. In that scenario, heated fragments could fly out of the transmission and come in contact with an ignition source in the vehicle, possibly leading to fire. So I guess it's a little bit more big of a deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal right there.
Yeah.
Is that what
Or
happened
maybe
to Coyote Works Jeep?
No, he
shoot
had a
through your
JK.
leg.
He had a JK.
We still haven't had him on to talk about that story.
No, we haven't. We should.
Yeah. So the automaker says it's aware of 26 customer assistant records, 36 warranty claims, and 6 field reports of issues with potentially related to this fault, and that's worldwide around the globe. Apparently they're gonna start reaching out to people the first week of April. So
it's funny. I was looking at that number. I'm like, wow, Jeep really hasn't sold that many. And I'm like, oh, that's just all the standards or all the manuals. So
yeah, that's just the manual transmission, which I think is quite a bit. I wonder if Jeep is probably the highest sold manual transmission vehicle currently, probably.
Well, probably definitely of the off-road world, because but the Tacomas have a manual. I'm not aware of a manual available for the 4Runners. So
Travis says that there's been chatter on the Jeep forums since the JLs first came out about failing clutches. The article mentioned that they didn't start looking into this seriously until the end of last year. So they've only been looking into this for like 4 to 5 months, which is kind of crazy that this has been happening for 5 years now, and they've been looking into it for 5 months.
So how happy would it make you if like Poison Spider came out with a shatter shield like they have for dragsters?
That was honestly my first thought. They're talking about, oh, it might come in contact with something hot. How about it shooting a hole through my leg with a molten, maybe not molten, but like a very hot piece of clutch disc?
Yeah, I mean, that sheet metal on the floor is not that thick.
I'm kind of okay with the Jeep burning down as long as I don't have to have my Keeleys reattached after it got burnt in half.
Exactly.
For those who don't know what a shatter shield is in high horsepower, like dragsters and tractor poles and stuff, it's a big, like, bulletproof plate that goes over the bell housing in case that this exact thing happens in those high horsepower vehicles. It'll shoot like a flywheel, cut people's legs off, and all kinds of crazy things. So, probably unnecessary for this application, but it would actually solve all the problems if they just put a shatter shield in.
You know, I wonder if
what if that's Jeep's fix is they just build like a little bolt-on, like, you know, beer can skid plate, shatter shield, and it just slides up in there and they bolt it on. Like, there you go, you're good.
Maybe we'll start seeing like JCR Off-Road and Metal Cloak and all those Jeep companies that make armor making shatter shields for them now.
I wonder if you could do it like those chainsaw pants where it's just a bunch of fibers. If you just had like this fiber thing that you could just tuck up in there.
Just like just a bunch of chain, like the edge of a flail mower, you know, when they're mowing on the highway, just hits the chain, slows it down.
Yeah, there you go.
We just have like a blanket of chainmail blanket we put over it, strap on, and Jeep's like, yeah, it cost us 12 cents piece. Enjoy your clutch while it lasts.
They put it on the inside, not the outside.
Yeah, why don't they just get heavy duty floor mats?
Yeah, it's in the cabin. Yep.
Motor Trend came out with an article, and to be totally honest, there is a lot of just wild speculation with this one, which we hate, so we thought we would speculate on this a whole bunch as well. So Chevy is building a Raptor /TRX fighter, and it has been apparently codenamed Project Meteor. So this is just random picture that could or could not have anything to do with any of these. Possibly the name could be ZRX, and speculation is that it may get the Cadillac CTS V 6.2 supercharged V8, has 668 horsepower, 659 foot-pounds of torque, or the Escalade V's V8 with 682 horsepower, 653 foot-pounds of torque. Can I throw you guys my wild speculation of what I think is going to happen with this?
Go for it.
Okay.
Do you mind?
I've got one that's probably just as good.
So since they're gonna, it's been Project Meteor, it's extincting the dinosaurs, the raptor and the T-Rex.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be gas. It's the next thing. It's the mammals. We already got a Hummer with a full electric drivetrain that has crazy power. They're just gonna have a Silverado with Baja suspension with a Hummer drivetrain. That's my thought.
They already do have an electric Silverado.
You know what?
Not with Baja suspension and like 1100 horsepower.
So my speculation is that it's going to be a Colorado with their crappy frame that bends in half, but still wins at 500. And
they already said it's a Silverado.
Oh, okay. So it's a 1500 with a crappy frame that bends in half, and there we go. It'll just be an EV. I agree.
I'm thinking it's going to be a very fast EV, and it's taking care of the dinosaurs. That it would kind of play to me.
Considering they're killing off the what is it, what's the car that Chevy has? I can't think of it right now.
Camaro.
No, that everyone still buys. Like they have the C10 or whatever it is now of it. Oh yes, it is the Camaro. No, I don't know, but they just announced killing off one of their sports cars. So it's like, yep, probably.
They're killing off the Camaro, which is
there we go.
Yeah.
Oh no, not the Camaro.
No.
We do.
It'd be like the Mustang.
Anyways, to sum this up, there's really no info out there on this other than Chevy has confirmed that they're working on something to compete against the Raptor and the TRX.
Well, we've got a contest. We've announced it. We're still talking about it. On May 8th, we will be doing a show with Andy from Warren about recovery stories. And we got a few in this week, actually. So I'm pretty excited. Leading up to the show, we'd like you, our listeners, to write in with your own personal recovery stories when you've recovered someone or been recovered. And we'll tell the story on the show, and we'll be picking a story at random to win what you see here on the screen if you're watching. But it is a Warren medium duty accessory kit. So it comes with a snatch block, 2 shackles, a tree saver, a flat strap, and a set of gloves, and an awesome bag to carry it all in.
Go prepared with Warren Industries. They produced the first recreational winch in 1959 and lead the industry with their dedication to quality and reliability. When you dig yourself in deep, make sure you have the right tools to get yourself out. Get Warren equipped and go where others can't. Now, let's get ready for adventure and head into our main topic.
All right. Well, we're going to start this off with the Fast 5 facts. Who wants to go first?
Well, how about I read them and then we just each take turn answering each question individually. Kind of do it.
We already know them.
In a group.
It'll be like a medium 5 facts instead of fast.
New or old vehicle? Aaron, you go first.
New.
Ben.
I love new, but I can never afford them so old.
I guess I'm kind of like mid-90s, which I guess is old, but I feel insulted when people say that's old, but I don't know. Summer, winter camping. Aaron.
I love winter camping. I just don't do it enough.
Yep, same here.
I got to go same, guys. I love winter camping, even though I haven't winter camped. Like I feel like it's now spring, technically, but
yeah.
Rock, sand, snow, or mud. Aaron, you go first.
Rock.
Ben?
Oh, I'm at a mix between sand and snow, the soft stuff.
Stuff for me. Snow's my all-time favorite, but rock is really. I'm. These Moab trips are really getting to me. I'm kind of.
Mhm.
I'm right there even with snow and rock, so I can't really go one way or the other. But I guess snow is my first love. Favorite vehicle brand.
I'm gonna go with Nissan, although I probably should say Toyota.
And Ben?
You know, I flip flop on this all the time. It's like Jeep, Toyota. I like them both. But I don't really hate anything that's really out there too much, except for, a few of them.
You know, I love Honda cars, but I hate their trucks. So
Right? There we go.
I gotta go Toyota.
Yeah.
Ben, I meant to talk to you about this earlier, but you actually, now that I'm on the show and I have a Toyota, so me and Aaron were talking, and you have to get a Jeep now. So you should probably start looking.
I
at
have
Jeep.
one. I have a Jeep. It's on the
You
side
got
of
to
the
get rid of the 4Runner and get like a daily Jeep. That's
Oh, okay.
we kind of voted.
Oh, yeah.
Favorite tire.
BFG KM3.
So basic. Ben.
The Duratrax. I've still one of my favorite tires.
For me, my favorite my favorite tire I've ran so far would be the Hankook Dynapro. I don't know. They don't make it anymore. DT008 or something. I do really want to try the Interco Truxus MTs though. So that could be my next favorite tire if I ever can afford it.
Yeah.
Any recommendations for someone new to off-roading, Aaron?
Join a podcast. You start a podcast, join it, and make things up as you go. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, number one, get out there and do it, and number two, ask a lot of questions. Don't feel embarrassed to ask questions.
Ben, what's your advice for the new guys?
All right. So don't worry about modifications or gear right off the bat. Find someone that is a veteran, has been going out at least a little bit, and go with them and just go out and explore and start testing your vehicle's limits so that you can learn your limits too. And then go from there.
And my recommendation for somebody new, I would say put your head on a swivel before you buy any gear. Everybody thinks the stuff they have is the best. They have the perfect setup. They may not. Not everybody's vehicle's the same. And I just read. Get online, research, read, and then check out everybody's stuff. Go to some events, see what they have, see what works. You don't just because somebody's the baddest guy there, he may have a setup that's not going to quite work for you. So cherry pick the best out of everything that you see, and then go that way. You don't have to just copy everybody exactly. Go ahead and I just read.
Eric says, ask questions unless it's asking what size tire you can fit. And then Josh says to take every answer with a grain of salt, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
It's good to listen, but also trust but verify. How about that?
Ooh, that's good. Trust but
You are your best advocate. Let me put it that way. That's what
Yeah.
people say in the finance world a lot. So even in off-roading, that works. You're going to be the number one advocate for you. Other people's advice isn't necessarily the best for you. Sometimes it is, but.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're going to now do the tell us about us, and we've modified it a little bit. We've added more questions than we normally ask our guests who come on the show. So we'll kick it off with, how did you get started in off-roading? I'll go first on this one. So how I got started in off-roading was I needed a truck. I was a car guy for the longest time. I bought a house. I needed a pickup truck so I could haul whatever you haul from Home Depot. I needed a truck so I could get those materials home, replace stuff, haul stuff to the dump, hook up to a trailer, that kind of thing. So I needed a truck. I traded in my sports car. I couldn't afford. So this is going to answer a question Josh says. He says, wait, excuse me, Aaron, a Toyota. Josh is a Nissan guy also. I couldn't afford a Tacoma. I went and looked at them. The Tacoma I looked at was $3,000 more than the Frontier, and the Frontier had 40 something thousand miles, and the Tacoma had 125,000 miles. The
How much do
Nissan
you
had
think that same Tacoma is worth more than your Nissan right now?
yeah, I don't know. The Tacoma had 125,000 miles. It didn't have a rear locker. The Nissan had a locker. The Tacoma was in really rough shape. Like there was missing the spare tire from underneath it. The paint was coming off of the canopy. Someone had just put a fresh coat of black paint in all the wheel wells. I don't know what they're hiding in there. It didn't have a shift knob. It was an automatic and it was missing the shift knob. I just don't know. But I think I made the right choice. I went with the Nissan. So to answer Josh's question about that, I really wanted a Toyota because there's so much aftermarket out there for Toyotas, and there was at the time. There wasn't for Nissans, and I've always been a modification guy. I've always tinkered. I've always messed with stuff. I've always changed stuff. I just can't leave stuff alone. And so that was hard growing. There was a lot of growing pains with the Nissan because there just wasn't much out there. Some of the stuff had to be done on my own, fabricated on my own, and then other stuff I couldn't afford it because it's so expensive because it's not as plentiful. I have rock sliders on my truck that are made for a Toyota Tacoma. They're DIY welded up yourself, but they are sold for Tacomas. So yeah.
Which is funny. There's a lot more now. And I want to say
Yes.
it was like, what, 3 years ago, Nissan did a whole line of stuff for the Frontiers.
Yeah, Nissan it's been 2 to 3 years ago they came out with the Nismo line. It was a bumper and some off-road lights and I think wheels. Not a whole lot, but it was something.
Step in the right
In
direction.
addition to, yep, it's a step in the right direction. How about you, Coy? What got you started into off-roading?
It's kind of tough to say, I guess. My dad had a Toyota mini truck. I think he had an 81 back in the day, and he'd take us out fishing. He liked to go to like high mountain lakes and streams and fire ponds and go fishing. So he'd truck us around the mountains in that, which I'm assuming is what started my love for Toyotas. My first technically real off-road vehicle was like a 83 Toyota, and then I ran that. I actually got that because it had been rolled, so I swapped a new cab on it, ran that around for about a year, and then I rolled it and sold it. They're a little top heavy when you get them lifted up there, but this is a great little truck. I still love those first gen Toyotas.
Yeah,
I
they're
got
really skinny.
what?
They're really narrow, and it really pushes up that center of gravity.
Well, that's a whole story about how I rolled mine, but I basically got ran off the road. Then I had an 85 later, and I wheeled that a little bit, but I wasn't really that into wheeling all that much. And then I saw FJ Cruiser one time, and I was like, I really like that, and had been looking to get a newer vehicle, so I looked and looked and looked. I really wanted an all army green 2011 Trails team, and yet Japan had a tsunami that year, and so they're like, oh, things are bad, we'll make less Trails teams. So they're actually really hard to find. So I ended up with 2010, and I just same thing as Aaron. I was a car guy and just got that I have to modify pretty much everything I have. So just one thing leads to another. An old guy that I knew through the car scene had seen that I got a FJ Cruiser, and he was like, hey man, I heard you got a FJ Cruiser. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I just got a 80 series Land Cruiser. He's like, we should go off-roading. And we just started into it and started off-roading and camping and just never looked back. And that was, in 2012 or something. So what about you, Ben?
I grew up camping Actually, so where we go out for snow camping at the Gifford Pinchot area, right there, I grew up camping out there, and it was all woods, not much for roads. So like my grandpa's Jeep that I have now, the Jeep truck, we would go out there in that. And then my dad also was into Volkswagens, and he had dune buggies and buggied out, where lifted Volkswagens with the fat tires in the back, little tires up front, and so we'd take those out in the woods. And then I had dirt bikes, and I rode dirt bikes for a bit, and then I got out of vehicles for a little bit, and then I got married, and the wife's like, "Hey, you should get a new car because that '87 Buick LeSabre's really dying right now." So I sold that, and I got a 2008 Jeep Wrangler, and I was like, "Hey, I can actually take this out." And so I just started going out with it with my parents. So, because my parents had a YJ and still do.
So, Coy, what was the first vehicle you took off road?
Well, I guess I had a Yamaha TW200, which also known as a
Ooh,
big wheel.
Yeah, the fat tire bikes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
the big
those are actually cool now, but back then they were lame and
Oh,
stuff. But yeah, well, they were some people are like, What's wrong with your dirt bike? Why'd you put 3-wheeler tires on it?" Now they're all nostalgic. People want like $4,000 for them.
yeah.
So I had that, and I thought I was going to be like a super cool dirt bike guy, and turns out I had way more cojones than talent, and I like compound fractured my arm. I got a bunch of stitches. I got hurt a lot, and that was on a big wheel 200. Like that's not a fast bike or anything. Like I just wrecked constantly. And part of it was because my friends had fast bikes, so to try and keep up, like they're doing like 50% and I'm doing 112% on that thing on
Yes.
that 200, trying to keep up with them riding normal, and then I'd just eat it. And like I just floppy broke my arm. Like it was horrible. I had surgeries and stuff. Yeah, I hit a ditch, an irrigation ditch going across a field of waist high grass. I totally forgot it was there, and was just hard charging across this grass field. I just straight across hit the other side. I just remember flying through the air, like way up in the air. And then I landed on the ground. I was just like sliding through the grass, and I stood up and was like, "Oh my God, I'm not paralyzed." And I was like super impressed. And then my bike just landed right beside me from the stratosphere, landed on the back tire, bounced it a couple spins. I went over and turned it off. And then I was like, "Wow, my arm really hurts." So I looked out, I was like, "Oh, that's definitely broken."
It's definitely broken.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I went home, told my mom my arm was broken. She's like, "I'm going to do some laundry and finish dinner, and I'll take you to the hospital." And I was like, "Please take me now." But then I got a 1986 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royal Bauham edition for my first car.
Wow, I didn't know those came with 4-wheel drive.
It did not come with 4-wheel drive. No, it didn't. It came with front-wheel drive, but I ran that thing everywhere, man. Just blasted it through the mountains, and we just anytime there was a field level with the road and no ditch, wham, out into this farm field. You know how it goes. So that was technically the first thing I took off road. I remember one of my buddies lived at this house that had a farm field across his driveway that was level. I left his house, but I just drove straight out his driveway, straight across the road, shot out to the field. And then I was just doing big like circle track stuff in this grass field. Probably didn't make a farmer very happy, but yeah, a lot of fun times off-roading in the Delta 88. What about you, Ben?
So outside of like dirt bikes and dune buggies, where I was actually in control, well, I mean, there was a few times I was actually in control of the dune buggies and dirt bikes, but well, the dirt bikes obviously, but I'd have to say it was probably my Wrangler when I got that. Sadly enough, as an adult, in control of it, and yeah, it's gone to Tahuya. What about you, Aaron?
So, when I was in my early teens, I started getting into dirt bikes, had a 125 and then a 250, and had those for quite a while. But as far as four-wheeling off-road, I that sports car that I talked about, it was a Subaru Legacy GT, a 2005 Subaru Legacy GT, which is basically like a STI, but in a larger sedan than the STI is. It's a lot more refined. I'd call it like the gentleman's STI. It had nice leather interior and a sunroof and stuff like that. And I was down in Central Oregon camping with it, and that camp trip was over and I was heading back into Washington, but we still had more time and we were going to camp a couple more times. Actually, just down the road from where we snow camp is where we were going camping. And this is in July, and we go north out of Oregon into Washington, at White Salmon, I believe it is, down in that area, Carson. And you go north up the backside of Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens.
Oh,
And
so Washington Backcountry Discovery Route.
well, no, it was paved
Oh,
for the
okay.
most part, but I kept seeing these signs that say Forest Service Road such and such is closed, and I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know, like it doesn't say how many miles ahead it's closed, so I'm just going to keep driving. And we get to the turnoff. We get to a half a mile from the turnoff, and the road is completely washed out. And as far as I know, they still have not fixed this washout. And this is from 12 or 13 years ago. And so I'm looking on my Garmin, and I see the Garmin shows this Forest Service Road 123 or whatever it was out there. And I'm like, well, this shows it's only like 3 miles long. I could take this and it'll drop me to where I need to go. And so it took a little bit of searching to find the Forest Service Road because Garmin wasn't very accurate as where it really was. And I jump on this 3.1 mile road and I just start climbing up the side of this hill, and it's just a dirt road. Oh, also at the very bottom, it specifically said road not maintained, drive at your own risk or something like that.
Those are the best
And
roads.
yeah, I even took a picture of the sign, but I'm like, psh, I've got an all-wheel drive Subaru. I'm not worried. All-wheel drive Subaru, we're good. And so I'm driving, and there's ruts in the road that I would bottom out on. So I have to make sure I'm driving on the side of the road and on the rut so that I don't turtle. And all of a sudden, here comes two motorcycle riders. I'm like a mile in, two dirt bike riders. And I stop and get on. I'm like, hey, do you think I can get through? What's the road like for the next 2 miles? They're like, we actually came the way you came and we're on our way back. If you made it this far, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. And I go another mile and I come across a guy in a first gen Toyota pickup truck, and it's like lifted on probably 33s, but it's lifted super high like they were back in the day. And this guy jumps out. I'm like, hey, I made it this far. Am I going to make it the rest of the way? He's like, you should be okay. I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep trucking. And basically all I had to do was stay on top of the ruts and not fall in the ruts, and I was doing okay. Well, when I got to the very end where you exit out, I don't know if someone put a gatekeeper in here or something, but literally someone had scooped out the road, and it was 3 sets of whoops, and they were deep. Like they were as tall as my car were. So if I got stuck down in there, the top of my car would have been the height of this. And so I just I knew like the whole driving across a speed bump, you got to do it at an angle. So I drove across at an angle, and my whole car it was like smooth on the bottom with factory plastic skid stuff on the underside, and just scraped mud going up and over these 3 humps to get out, and just scraped mud every time I crested it. But I like give it a little gas and slide over and slide over the next one. So made it. That was a little harrowing, and we got to the lake, and the lake is Taklock Lake, which is the very top of Baby Shoe Pass. And we pull into that campground, and it had been drizzling. There was still snow on the ground. The mosquitoes are everywhere. And I think that campground holds like 100 campers. And I think there was only 3 campers there, and we were tent camping. And we're driving around kind of looking, getting a lay of the land. And there was some guy up there with a big truck and a big camp trailer and a Dale Earnhardt flag. And like he gave me the absolute stink eye. And I'm like, I don't think I want to camp here, so we just went home early. So, yeah. So that's kind of the first vehicle I took off road.
Ooh, it's time for our favorite question, isn't it? What's your most embarrassing moment on the trail? And I'm going first on this one, but I'm not sure. I've got so many. It's like when I drove into the ditch, but I thought about this one. I was looking at this one. I was thinking, and I'd have to say it was when we went snow camping, and I backed up with my door open and ripped off that panel. I have never felt so stupid in my life. It's like, oh, come on, really?
And I wheel with you like once a year, and that panel gets ripped off almost every time. That's
Well,
your
the first time that it happened was that time, and
No,
now it comes off.
no,
Every
it got blown off at the Alvord the first time I went wheeling with you guys. You're driving around on
no,
the
that was
Alvord Lake.
that was my front fender.
Yeah, that's parts blew
No,
off.
that was my fender that flew off that time.
Same method to secure it to the vehicle, but it was my front fender underneath my snorkel.
You're telling me that when we jacked your truck up and dug out under the tires and set it back down, and then you tried to leave a day later, that's not the most embarrassing?
Shh. Yeah, you know, that could be it too. Or it could be the time before that when they put a tow strap on me and I went driving forward and didn't go any
Oh,
farther.
that's good too. That's an honorary mention at least.
Yeah, I've got so many of them. It's hard to really choose, but I mean, the one time I felt the stupidest was when I backed up with my door open, knowing that there's bushes. I mean, it could have been when I backed into the bushes on that SAR mission and pulled forward and then turned off my vehicle, and then the whole transmission, that position sensor, and I couldn't start my vehicle and had to get towed out on a search and rescue mission. That was kind of embarrassing too. I mean, I could probably do a whole show of just Ben's most embarrassing moments, but that's not what this is all about. So, Aaron, what about you?
Well, my most embarrassing moment on the trail was when I was snow wheeling in the south end of the Gifford Pinchot. I went with a group of guys that were coming out of the Portland area, and we were snow camping and wheeling. And we were climbing up this grade, and it must have washed out at some point, but not like the road washed out, but a lot of water comes down the road, and it actually made a V channel in the snow. In the road. And there's no way you can not drive in this channel. You just had to put 2 tires down on the channel, the other 2 up on the road, and work your way through this track. And I'm driving through that, and I'm really new to off-roading, new to snow wheeling. I aired down because everybody says you're supposed to air down, but I was too shy to ask, like, but to what? What's a good number? What should I air down to? And so I thought like 5 is a good number. So I aired down to 5. 5 sounds good. You get lots of big wide tire contact patch.
Tons.
Yeah, tons. And Rick said that is embarrassing hanging out with Portland guys. They weren't actually from Portland. In fact, I don't know if any of them were from Portland. I just used that as a landmark. So so when you've got 4 tires that are that low and you're driving in a V-shaped crevice in the ground, it actually pinches the sidewalls of your tire. And I popped 2 beads at the same time. In fact, I got it on video. I had a GoPro running in the cab, and I popped 2 beads at both at the same time. And I'm like, now I'm stressed out. I don't have 2 spare tires. I only carry 1 spare tire. What am I going to do? But we used a farm jack and jacked the truck up. Bottle jack first because it was sitting on the sliders, then a farm jack, and jacked it up. And we were just able to reset the beads with an air compressor and not go as low, and carried on our way. I slowed us down for probably about 40 minutes with that maneuver. It was pretty impressive. Josh says, can we see the video? It's deep in my Facebook somewhere. I'd have to find it in there. And it's not that quality. It's just me driving in the snow at an angle. So yes, Travis, assuming some stuff there. Yeah, Coy, tell us about your most embarrassing moment on the trail.
Mine's a solid, easy one. I can go right to it in my mind. This is when I always ask this question to our people we're interviewing. I want them to feel like I do with mine, where I think about it at night. Sometimes when I'm laying there, I'm like, wow, that was dumb. And it's only been like 12 years. So my FJ Cruiser was, once again, I was pretty new. FJ Cruiser, I hadn't had it long. I don't think there was really any mods per se on it that I can think of. We're in kind of this, in the Cascades, you go up on these logging roads, and the logging companies just make their own little gravel pits. They just find a spot that's rock. They put a crusher there, crush up a bunch of rock, then they'll drag the crusher off to another one. So they're not hauling rock from 90 miles away. They just make their own mini rock pits. Those are often like playgrounds for, off-roaders. So they'll have piles of rock and stuff. So this one was an old rock pit. It had some big, what we call logger special or swamp rock, like 3-inch minus rock piled up. And you could kind of drive up. It made it like it was 2 levels. You could drive up one side, and then there's a steep straight up it, and it was probably 12 feet high, real steep. And we'd been trying to drive up that steep spot to pop up onto that second level. At some point, I backed up and got a pretty good run at it. And, independent suspension compresses when you hit that steep bottom. And I had a skid plate on there, but between the skid plate and the bumper, there's about a 4-inch gap where the radiator is exposed. Well, I scooped up enough gravel, it pushed against my radiator and just tacoed it a little bit that it cracked the bottom plastic edge there where it hooks to the radiator. I had no idea. I just scraped my skid plate, thought it was no big deal. Kept wheeling. We went up higher, got in the snow, and we'd been up there the weekend before, and a guy had blown some kind of transmission line and put all this pink transmission fluid, red transmission fluid in the snow. We're blazing a pretty good path through some deep snow, and I'd have to back up every little bit. And I could see pink in the snow, and I was like, "Ah, look at that transmission fluid there from that last guy. Oh, look at that doofus." Actually, that was the stock Toyota pink antifreeze that was slowly dripping out of my truck. And then eventually I noticed my truck was running a little warm, and then I got out and I started doing, wait a second, and saw what was going on. So I loosened the cap and we just sat there and packed snow into the radiator till it was mostly full. And then with the cap loose, it wasn't building up pressure, and I was able to drive home no problem. And when I got home, you can actually see on the factory FJ Cruiser skid and bumper where they're normally on most of the years, they had a little piece of plastic there to keep that from happening. But some reason in 2010, they didn't do that. And when I was researching it, there was guys that shoved, I wasn't the only one that did that.
Oh, no.
I decided not to put that piece of plastic that sloped right there during those couple years. But so my technically first mod on my FJ is I got a little piece of aluminum plate, and it bolted to the skid plate and bolted to the bottom of the factory bumper to cover that spot so I wouldn't jam a stick or something there. And that was, my wife was with me and one of her friends. I didn't have any kids yet. Some other guys I wheeled with. And then the fact that we were talking crap about the guy that had blown a transmission line, we could still see it under all the fresh snow. And it was me the whole time, just wildly embarrassing. Wildly.
Yes.
I think about it all the time.
It keeps you up at night.
Yeah.
So I actually thought of one more, just one more, and it's how I blew the engine in my JK.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that story to pop out here. So this is the third time you've mentioned owning a JK in this episode, and you haven't mentioned the story yet. So tell us how you blew an engine. Were you racing somebody, or
no,
driving really, really fast and hard? What'd you do?
This is why my wife says that I'm not allowed to go to Tahuya without one, adult supervision, and two, a snorkel. No, I agreed. I apparently I need responsible adult supervision because, as you know, Aaron personally, and Jeremy,
I can attest to this.
that I need adult supervision when there's big puddles, because
Yeah.
I see a big puddle, and I grew up with like Volkswagens, and you go through like a big puddle in a Volkswagen, it's nothing because the engine's in back. So we were in Mud Lake, and it was like the first couple rains of the year. We'd gotten probably like 10 inches of rain. So Mud Lake had like a little bit of water, and I had taken a buddy out there, and I decided I was going to jet through Mud Lake and do a big rooster tail off the back. And so I put it into two-wheel drive, and I hit Mud Lake hard. I hit it so hard that my the K&N box filter, that the foam for that's supposed to block it and protect it, that doesn't touch the hood, got pushed over and filled full of water, and I hydro locked my engine and cracked my block. I actually still have the piston with the portion of bent rod sitting on the counter in the living room, or on the shelf in the living room. So, well, no, that 3.8 never had any problems because it got replaced. So, yeah, I had that Jeep maybe a year, and that happened. So,
Well,
could be.
good luck on your next Jeep that you're going to be getting soon, because you have to get rid of your Toyota now.
Yep.
We'll see.
So let's do current vehicles. Aaron, what do you drive right now?
So I'm currently driving a 2008 Nissan Frontier Nismo, and I should say, because maybe a lot of people don't know this, but this is my second Nissan Frontier Nismo BT Dubs. My first one was an 05. I bought an 05 and I ran that for a little bit, but it's actually the one that I traded my car into a dealership and got that truck. It didn't have the factory roof rack on it, which I love the look of that roof rack. And there was something funky. Some animal had to have urinated in the back of it, and I had it professionally cleaned and everything. And any day where it would get like above 70 degrees and the sun would come through and warm up the interior, you would just get this nasty animal urine smell in the back.
Yeah.
And then there was another funny thing happened one day, like the power windows stopped working and the windshield wiper stopped working just at random. So I'm like, I'm going to trade it in. So I traded it in for 2008. Exact same color, but it had a roof rack, and same truck.
Didn't it have a canopy?
Lower miles.
Didn't the other one not have canopy?
Neither of them came with a canopy, but
Okay.
the one that I traded it in for came with a hard tonneau cover, a roll-up tonneau cover.
What about you, Coy?
How about, Coy, what you got? What you driving?
Well, I obviously drive the 2010 Toyota FJ Cruiser Trail Team Edition. All tan, no white roof. Trail Team Edition has just aesthetics, basically. So I got black handles and mirrors and stuff. What about you, Ben?
I drive a 2006 Toyota 4Runner SR5. They did not have a TRD until I think it was 2009 for my generation. So it's the bastard son of the 4Runners, the bastard generation, because it just didn't get a lot of love.
Still doesn't get a lot of love.
Yeah.
Let's go through our mod list, so people kind of know what we've done to our rig. So, Coy, why don't you hit us up with the one or two items that you've done? Yours looks pretty stock when I see it.
It really is compared to yours. It's actually hard to remember all your mods. Don't let my wife hear that.
It really is.
I'm like sitting here. I'm like, oh, one more, and then we get back on the show. I'm like adding some more. So I got 2.5-inch red flow shocks all the way around, front and rear. They're the extended travels up front, 700-pound coils. They're the Metal Tech. I have the whole Metal Tech long travel set up with the longer shocks, arms. I have an Iron Man Oh, which rod is it? The one that centers your God dang it. The centers your
And
axle.
hard.
Panhard. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I have the Ironman Panhard. I like the way it adjusted better. But yeah, so I have the long travel in the rear, not the front. And that is like a rock crawling style long travel, not Baja truck style long travel, just before somebody calls me out on that. I have the All Pro heavy duty sliders with the dimple die inserts. I have a Trailworks front bumper. It's a tube bumper. It was one of the lightest ones I could find. One of the things I mod my truck for is that I really like to make everything as lightweight as possible where I can. So the bumper I chose was the lightest one I could find, basically, and actually tucks the winch as far back as possible, so it's less stress on your frame ends and bumper itself. Let's see. I have a ARB actually sells them. I don't remember the brand, but it's a roof console. You pull out your dome lights, and this console bolts up in the center. And I have a ham radio in there, and kind of has like a sunglass deal set up in there. The ham radio is an Alenco radio. I got the Garmin Overlander all mounted in there. I don't know if that's really a mod, but since I kind of have it semi-permanently mounted, I decided to say that. I have a Rubbermaid drawer slide in the back, which is out of a Tahoe cop car. And then I cut it down to fit and remade my own. I don't know. It's complete. I got it for free, and then I made it work, and it works out perfect because my toolbox is the same height and slides in, and then like 2/3 of the back is a drawer slide, and then my toolbox fits right there. Let's see. Oh, and then I have the Interco Bird Dog wheels. They have kind of a bead retention technology. They're kind of one of the first ones. They're powder coated all black. And then I have a plethora of rock lights, that are white, not weird colors.
I was going to ask what color. What color. Okay.
Yeah, they're the color that your eyes use. Just not the color that you signal to other people of your preferences. Anyways, and then I got some. Hang on a second. Vision X spotlights, some aux beams, some rigid lights. I got a bunch of lights. And then I have my own custom-made shovel mount and a shovel on the roof rack. That pretty much wraps it up as far as I can think. I'm sure there's a few other things, but
You want me to go next, Ben?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So my Nissan Frontier, it has a few modifications to it as well. So I have a Nissan Titan engine and transmission. And to that engine, I've added shorty headers with a completely free-flowing exhaust, if you know what I mean. And of course, it's got a tuning it for that. I'm also running the Nissan Titan front differential, and it's got an ARB air locker in it. And because I'm running the front differential, I'm also running Titan axles, which I must say are an absolute dream to swap out because they bolt on to the differential rather than having to pop them out of the C-clip to swap out an axle. I know that because I broke an axle when we were in Colorado. Let's see here. I've got factory Titan lower control arms with SPC upper control arms that are pretty adjustable, and those are Titan SPC upper control arm, and those give me long travel suspension. I've got a rad flow. I'm pretty sure they're 2.5s. I don't have remote reservoirs for mine, but mine are they still get the job done. They're pretty cush. Love them. Also up front, I just recently did the Titan spindles, Titan hubs, and Titan brake setup up front, and that did two things. It gave me larger brakes, more surface area, more clamping force, but it also gave me a different lug pattern, which is a way more common lug pattern than the Nissan Frontier. So basically, it's the lug pattern every Toyota uses, which I shouldn't say every sixth lug Toyota uses. which is a lot of wheels are made for that lug pattern. Which means that I'm also running worn wheels, which was one of the main reasons I wanted to run those worn wheels and step up to 17s. So I've got an ARB air compressor under the hood. I built a custom bracket that kind of bolts to just a factory mounting point under the hood and for one of the two spots, and then the other spot is on the upper control arm mount itself. You take the nut off and slip my little bracket over it. Let's see here. I've got those Trail Gear rock sliders I mentioned. I've got full skid plates on the truck, although some of them are factory skid plates that I still have yet to replace, and the rest are an aftermarket that I got used. I don't remember the brand, but they're used. And they're steel. They are not amazingly light aluminum ones. I've got a custom rear bumper that a friend made for me. An ARB front bumper with a worn Xeon 10S winch. And on that bumper, I've got some 9-inch LED lights, two 9-inch LED lights that are like a ARB intensity knockoff, but they've worked great forever. I've never had an issue with them. Let's see. I've got a CB radio installed inside, and my ham radio will be going in very soon. Thank you, Rick, for welcoming me to the hobby. I've got the truck came with a roll-up tonneau cover, and I traded that out for a snug top canopy. I did a HID projector retrofit to the headlights of my truck, so I've got HID projectors to help me see at night. And I've got a snorkel on my truck as well, and I'm running for tires Mickey Thompson Baja Boss. I think it's 305/70/17, I think is the number. Or 315/70/17, something like that. Essentially a 35 12.5/17 as far as tires go. So I think that's pretty much it. I'm sure there's I added a switch panel on the inside, cut out part of the center console, and I was able to easily put in a 6 rocker switch panel in there, and up under the dash I've got a Blue Sea fuse distribution block thing, which is pretty handy. I can just tie into that when I need to wire something into the truck. Eric said, don't forget the recent body mods. Yes, I in addition to the fender cutting that I did, I also have some nice dents in the truck. One from a young driver hitting my truck, and then a few weeks later Ben backed me into a stump in the exact same spot. And then I got another one on the other side that looks like the Z that Harry Potter has on his forehead, on the door from me.
Pretty sure it's a lightning bolt on his forehead. I mean, I wouldn't know because that's
I drew you out. I drew you out, you nerd. Nerd alert. Boy, we should change this episode to all about us nerds.
I might just add that in there at the end.
And I'm sure there's a few more other things, but that's the basics of it. How about you, Ben?
Right. So I've got multi-fab skid plates.
No, you don't. This is a list of mods that you've done to the truck.
No, I have one on. I have one mounted.
Okay. Oh, you finally got one on. That's right.
No,
okay.
I have one. I have one mounted. I know. I was like, okay, so I've got one mounted. I can count that. I still got 2 skid plates I got to mount up. But okay, then I've got the roof rack. It's like a Prinsu style for those not familiar. Exofab sliders, 3 Monkeys hitch mounted tire swing, Northwest Trail Innovations open top front bumper with a Warren Xeon 10S. 3rd gen Tacoma struts with a spacer The third gen Tacoma struts give me a little bit of a lift in the spacers to make it an even 3 or 2.5, somewhere in there. I've got KC Highlights rock lights that are pink because they were such a good deal and they are bright. And I can see them, and yes, that is the gender I am after, is pink. Let's see. It's Raptor lined baby poop yellow. Was originally supposed to be tan, but that's getting fixed here soon with the shop. I've got 2 power tanks, depending upon the trip I'm going on. I've got a 10-pound and a 20-pound. I've got JBA upper control arms, with currently, what are they? The Superflex rear springs for a 3-inch lift. I can't think of who makes the Superflex.
Rough
Yeah.
Country.
No,
Toy Tech.
Toyotech. There you go. Toyotech Superflex rear springs. Thank you. Let's see. Tons of flashy amber lights mounted up to the roof rack, and then along with the ditch lights.
That's so when he's on his SAR missions and he breaks down, that people can come find him.
Exactly. When I'm actually active with SAR, because Rick's here, and I've not been active. He's angry at me. Let's see. I've got a Rough Country control panel to control all those flashy lights. Dirty Life DT1s. So the DTs stands for dual tech, or dual something. And it's so you can have them mounted as a bead lock or as a stand on the standard bead, and I've got them on the bead lock side. Milestar Patagonias, 33s, 80 series snorkel, because at the time no one made a snorkel for the 4th gens, and now ARB makes one, and it's like $600. I've got some ARC LED headlights, and realistically, that's about all the mods there are for it. And let's see, mods that didn't work.
Wait. Aaron, since you're on 35s now, I've been on 35s. Can we start collectively shaming Ben for only running 33s? I think we could do.
Yeah, when he said 33 Patagonias, I was like, huh,
It's like
peasant.
amateur hour.
Only on 33s.
Maybe
Oh.
I like more of a challenge when I off-road versus you guys. I need big tires so I can get over the small obstacles.
I need somebody to remix that Sir Mix-a-Lot song where it's like 33s on a three-edge lift. Maybe if it's a samurai.
Nice. Well, I'll start with mods that didn't work here. So the first one I wrote down was a 2-inch puck. And I say the reason why that didn't work, the only reason why it didn't work was because I wanted more. So I went from a 2-inch puck. I only had that 2-inch puck spacer for 6 months, and then I went to a 3-inch puck spacer, which I ran for like 60,000 miles. So those worked fine. Don't feel embarrassed about running stuff like that. You can't always jump to a full long travel setup straight out the gate. The other thing I ran with those 2-inch puck spacers was a 2-inch lift shackle in the rear, and that was an absolute total failure, at least on the Nissan Frontiers. The Nissan Frontiers come with some pretty flat leaf springs in the rear, and when I added those lift shackles, it inverted my leaf springs, and I basically was at the same ride height in the rear with 2-inch lift shackles as I was with factory shackles. And it made me worry that I was going to break my leaf spring. So I guess that's something I didn't mention in the mods, was that my rear lift is, I went to a spring shop and I had my leaf pack re-arched. They added 2 more leaves to it, and then they added a 1-inch spacer underneath the leaf pack and put it all back together. And that gave me like 6 to 7 inches of lift in the rear of my truck before it settled down. I never did get an official number, but I got a lot of lift out of that. let's see here. Used plywood drawers. I was the fourth recipient of these drawers. Someone had homemade built a set of plywood drawers for 5-foot bed for Nissan Frontier, and they, like I said, they got passed around. I was the fourth person, and they were good, but they were a little bit too tall. I couldn't get my ARB fridge on top of them, which was a big bummer. I wanted my fridge on top of the drawers, and even though I have a canopy, water still gets in my canopy, and it rotted the plywood and caused some issues, and the drawers were falling apart. So I took those out. Homemade roof rack. I built a roof rack that nestled inside of the Nismo roof rails. And the only reason why I'm saying those didn't work is just because I never use it. It was just a bunch of steel with bed lining on top of it up there. One time I strapped my chairs on top. Other than that, I just didn't use it. I take that back. I was running some off-road lights on it, but once I switched to my front bumper lights, I took those off. So a roof rack hasn't been any good.
I
Yeah.
remember those big lights.
Yeah, those were HID. I had 4 7-inch HID lights on the roof of my truck, and I don't know why we didn't upload a bunch of pictures of our trucks as we went through here, but
It would have been a good idea.
that would have been smart. Let's see, and then last thing was that hard roll-up tonneau cover. So Nissan Frontiers only have a 5-foot bed unless you got the 6-foot bed, and that roll-up tonneau cover took up the first 12 inches of the bed. So essentially, I had a 4-foot bed on the truck with a tonneau cover, and when it rolled up, like you just have no space for any gear or anything at all. And I put it up on Craigslist for trade or for sale. I was wanting to trade for canopy, and I found some dude who had a Frontier with the exact same color canopy as my truck, and we traded straight across. We went to a parking lot somewhere, took the canopy off, put on his truck, put on mine, put the tonneau cover on his, and we drove away, and we were both happy. So pretty stoked about that. Let's see here. Mods that didn't work. Coy, what do you got?
So me too, I guess, Aaron. I also had a spacer lift that I started out with. And like I said, I shouldn't say that it didn't work. It worked for the time being, and it was literally like $80. So it got me on, well, a little bigger tire than Ben runs. It got me to a 295 when I had my spacer. So a little bit bigger than his tire. It's like a 33 3/4. But it just, you on an independent suspension rig like this, you gain lift, but you lose travel running that spacer lift. So it's okay for wiggling, but you really it's just not a good way to go long term. And next one, I won't say that it's a mod that didn't work, but I got 16-inch wheels. I bought the wheels I wanted. They're sweet wheels. Still love them. 16-inch wheels are going extinct. Like, they're not so much wheels, 16-inch tires. So I've already, even when I was looking for tires, I was getting pushed around to tires I didn't necessarily want, because the ones I wanted weren't available in 16, and 17's just. So that's kind of I'm not sad that I got the 16s, and I'd like to stay on 16s, but I'm sure that I'm gonna get forced to go 17 at some point.
Yeah,
And
that's how I felt.
I'd still be
15s.
I'd still be rocking my 16s had I not had to do the breakup to do the different lug pattern. So
yeah, I mean, I like the 16s. It's just that I think in 5 or 6 years, my choices of tire will be slim to none. And then last but not least, man, I bought a super winch, and that's a whole.
How super was it?
Oh, it had to have been super.
Oh, it was super. I bought theirs. I don't even remember what it was, but this is their premium remote, super awesome built-in lights, super sweet winch that. I mean, it worked. It just took like 10 minutes to plug the remote into it, and then they never sent me. I never got the wireless remote. Like, it just never came. And then I tried to call, and yeah, we'll send it. And then I would call and then they decided to like sell to another company. So when you'd call in their line, and it would give you the options, none of the options would work. Like you couldn't get a hold of anybody. It would just let you. But turns out they're in the same town I worked in, so I went just like drove in there, and they just told me that I was up a creek basically. And I
Oh
ended
wow,
up,
that's
yeah, they're just
nice.
like tough. Don't know what to tell you. And I mean, it was an $1,800 winch or something. It was an expensive winch. It should have been a great winch. I ended up, luckily, I'd only had it I less than 3 months, and the company I bought it online from, I called them, was like, hey, here's what's going on, and they took it back, and I originally had a Warren winch, but I bought it used for like $50. It was a really old M8000, and I went, I used that for years, and then a gear or something broke inside, and it was making a ton of noise. It still worked. It just, you could hear like teeth, grinding noises. So I decided to different winch, and then I went back to Warren because they're clearly the best, and I got a 9.5 XP, which is
I
all the way.
remember when that was all happening, and I think we had Andy on the show, and you might have been in the comments or in one of our chats, and Andy was like, and then you mentioned something like you should have gotten a Warren.
There was I made a post about it, when I was originally just trying to like get a hold of Super Winch.
Yeah.
I had originally like, guys, I'm looking for a new winch. I'm open to brands. And Andy had kind of posted, obviously Warren, if you need any questions. And I don't know, it just got, some people don't like these brands, some of this. I'm like, look, I'm looking at everything. And I ended up picking that Super Winch. And Warren's, motto is go prepared. So when I had all the problems with the Super Winch, I was like, well, guys, I'm sorry to admit, but I didn't go prepared. And I bought a Super Winch, and this is all these problems. So I would say the Super Winch was my most regretful mod, because I mean, it was an expensive winch, and I was going to be stuck with a paperweight that cost me like $1,800, but it worked out luckily. What about you, Ben?
Well, used tires right out the door with that. I've gone, let's see, the XJ, the Forerunner of having tires explode on me. So yeah, used tires bad. And it's just, sometimes you luck out. It's a huge gamble, and when you're spending money on something like off-roading, it's your best just to not. And then trying to repair factory skid plates after they've been creased and bent and all that, it just doesn't work, because it's never gonna go back to the right spot.
I like Mark's comment here. It says, writing out a build list, and halfway through, I need to go mix myself a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's staggering how much you can do to a vehicle. Big money and even small money.
I would say, though, like most of my parts, I kind of replaced as I needed new. You know what I mean? Like my shocks were kind of going. I was like 90,000 when I got my 2.5s, and I replaced my shocks. Like, you don't just throw away your old 33s and bump to 35s. You run your 33s nothing, and then you bump up to 30. Like, you kind of upgrade as it forces you to, in a way.
Yeah. I that's been what I've kind of done, is replacing stuff as it needs replaced. And I can replace it with an upgrade. It's kind of hard to like go big tires when you don't have a big lift. So
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of my stuff, like I kind of have a list running in my head, and I would be like, "Oh, they're doing a super sale on that," and or the Black Friday, and it's years in the making. I didn't just buy all this, put it on one day.
No, that's for sure.
I just thought of one more. Crappy LED headlights. It's like the cheap Amazon LED headlights. Like, you get what you pay for. Like my Arc LED headlights for my Forerunner are like a good brand. I paid a decent amount of money for them compared to $20 LEDs that you get on Amazon. And I had HIDs before, and they worked great. They started going out and flickering.
the ballast, so it was time to replace them. So, yeah, buying cheap upgrades bad.
Aaron, let's mods planned for your front Titan, frighten.
So I've
Right.
actually been holding this little tidbit of information back all episode. So you know how I bled the brakes on my truck 2.5 times? They're still spongy. And doing some thinking and some talking to some people. One of the people I talked to is my buddy Christian. And I'm like, what do you think I should do here, Christian? I got really spongy brakes. And I told him I upgraded the rotors and the calipers. And he said, I did that one time on a truck, and there's so much more volume in the new calipers that you have to get almost all the way to the floor with the pedal to get enough fluid to get into the caliper for it to do its job. So I said, well, some people do swap the Titan brake booster over. So I think that's going to be one of my next mods, possibly sooner than later. I
You've
still
got
have that
one
Titan truck.
build.
I do. I've got it in here. It's actually in the shop. If it's compatible, I am going to yank that thing out, and hopefully it'll be an easy install. How difficult it is to swap out a brake booster, and if you also use the master cylinder or not. I got to do some research, but this is breaking news. I'm looking into that. I know people have done it to get better pedal feel, so we'll find out. New headlights. Recently there's been some sweet LED headlights that have come out for the truck, but they're only for 09 and up, which has a different a little bit different front end. It's a little bit refreshed. And so to do those headlights, I also have to change like this upper valance, and I have to change out the grill, the headlights, and then a part of the wiring harness. So it's going to be a $1,000 bill to do those headlights, but I kind of really want to do it, especially since one of my HIDs has not just burned out, but caught the wiring harness on fire and melted it. So I'm just running around with one headlight for a while. So
Good thing you got all those aftermarket lights, right?
yeah, except for when you're going through town. I don't think they like them. I'd like to do a new plywood drawer system, just a lower profile for the back of the truck. I'm definitely going to be looking into fender flares for it, because after I got the truck back from the alignment and I was pulling into the shop, I rubbed one of the wheels on the fender. So ridiculous. I want to do one of those pre-filter things that on top of snorkel that Ben has. I've been wanting one of those forever, longer than before Ben has his. So just so everybody knows, I'm not copying Ben. I wanted to do it a long time ago. Because I'm more about function over form, and that totally has function.
Oh, huge
Totally has function.
Are you going to get the dust collector style like Ben has, or are you going to get a cyclone one that shoots the dust out?
Oh, I don't know. I forgot that they made the Cyclone one that flung it out as it goes. I'll have to look. We'll see. I might cheap out and just get the collector one that Ben has. So, maybe if these fender flares work out and I still feel like I have got enough oomph, I may check out doing 37s as my next tire. Since I'm cutting my fenders, I'm going to open them up as big as I can and just be ready for 37s. I just don't want 37s to cause me to have to regear. I really don't want to have to regear.
Are you bringing your grinder, your battery powered grinder with a cutoff wheel when we go on our wheeling trip here pretty soon?
Ooh, you think I should?
I would bring that, and then that little piece of pool, that rounded edge plastic sled. Bring that as well.
Well, so the trim pattern that I have to cut. You remember how on my fender there's that flat face that goes all the way around that follows the fender? You just cut that, and it's like 1.5 wide to 2 inches wide. You just cut that whole thing off. So I won't need a template. I'll have that.
Well, I mean, Yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about in like a week or two. If so, we don't shred your entire fender and crush it and rip it
No,
off.
no, I know what you're saying, but I won't need to bring the saucer template because I'll just be cutting along that line.
Is that part plastic or is it metal there?
It's metal.
Oh, it is metal. Okay, I was gonna say if it's
Yeah.
plastic, you should just heat it and fold it up.
No, there's no plastic under there anymore.
Mm.
I should have put that in mod that don't work. Fender liners.
Yeah.
Then last thing is I really want to do a rear tire swing away for my truck. Now that we have a normal size, full size pickup truck, I never wanted to do a rear tire swing away because it's gonna impede if you ever had to have the tailgate down and haul something. You just can't. So now I've got a real truck. I'm not worried about it. So Josh says not to do 30. I'm assuming he's talking about not doing 37s. He says your ball joints, tie rods will not be. So that's possible. 37s is a big tire.
People
And
put 37s on Titans all the time.
Yeah, but they're probably a lot of pavement princesses though. I am not the most
Moab is
conservative
like
driver.
Pavement Princess. You know what I mean? It's all smooth,
Yeah.
slick rock. So
Yeah, it is.
same thing.
Yep. How about you, Coy? What does your future mod list look like?
Well, I mean, if we're just going to the moon, Weld74 says they're developing portals for my series of Toyota axles. I don't know that I'll ever be able to throw 20 grand at portals, but man, that would just be end all be all, just to get that 4 inches of instant ground clearance. Like, it changed snow wheeling on a just in crazy scale. Like, you just be so much more capable.
What happened to that company? What happened to that other company that you reached out to like a year and a half ago?
They're at war with
probably got drone struck by Russia. I don't know. But
I thought they were Russian.
No,
Ukrainian, Russian. I don't.
It turned out they were Ukrainian. He thought they were Russian, but it turned out they were Ukrainian.
They're in a war zone either way. I don't know if the war is thrust upon them or they're thrusting the war upon someone else. But
they're building portals for drones right now.
Yeah, I don't know what they're up to. I hope they're up to good things. I wish them the best. But they still want $16,000 for their portals out of the Ukraine. And I had to wait like 6 months extra on my Starlink so that they could have my Starlink. So I feel like that should discount me a whole bunch. Plus, I don't know how many millions of, like, all my tax dollars got sent to the Ukraine of my whole life. Like, I'd do like $5 grand. Plus, with the exchange rate, like, dude, they should, $5 grand should be plenty. So those are probably never in the cards, but I'd love a set of portals. I just think that'd be great. I would like to re-gear. And then while you're doing that, I want the Eaton Harp electric front locker. I already have the Toyota e-locker in the rear. ARB air lockers are great. I just would match it with another e-locker. There's pros and cons and whatnot, but I like e-lockers. So I would love to re-gear and throw a Harp e-locker in there.
Are you on factory 373s?
What?
Are you on 373s right now?
410s.
Oh, you are on 410s. Okay.
That's factory for me.
Factory for you. Gotcha.
Jiggity.
Yeah. I mean, I'm running 35s though, and you're running so we're probably actually geared about the same right now.
Probably.
Tire size difference.
I'm running 35s and I'm on 355 gears.
Let's see. The other thing I would like, I believe it's Expedition 1 makes the Mule roof rack. I just dig the look of that roof rack. I don't really need another roof rack. I sure like the look of that though. They're spendy, but maybe someday on the right Black Friday sale, I'll pick that up.
There you go.
And then it seems like I'm copying Aaron a lot here. I also want to swing out and a rear bumper. Every one that is made currently is pretty heavy, which, I mean, I'm guessing for good reason. They want to sport a heavy tire on there, but like I said, I try to keep everything as lightweight as possible. And I don't know. One of these days I'll do a rear swing out, but I'll probably have to make my own.
Well, I've got some skids I've got to, put on still. So that I would love to do gears and lockers. As you remember from my hunt for that rear end of that Toyota. Still on the lookout for that. New struts. I've got some Falcon shocks that I might throw on here once I pull the truck apart this summer when the garage gets built. I got some more trimming I need to do, as you heard while we were in Christmas Valley. I need some drawers in the rear, just so I can kind of organize my gear a little better, because right now it's just in a little tote in the back, which it's nice, but it would be a lot more secure in drawers. And then a full rear bumper versus with the swing out versus my tire swing that I have right now that's hitch mounted, just for better clearances. Like, it's nice there being able to have the full size spare there and not underneath, but it would be nice a little closer to the rear of the vehicle, and not hanging out 6 inches out the rear or whatever it is. Let's talk about some places you've wheeled. Coy, why don't we start off with you?
Well, I've been to Moab, Utah a couple times. Aaron and I went to Ouray together. I've been all over the Oregon Cascades and the Oregon Coast Range, Oregon Dunes. I've wheeled most of the dunes out here. Done a couple of the Oregon backcountry discovery routes. Really a lot of Central Oregon and Eastern Oregon, even Southeast Oregon. Done a bunch of camping and wheeling out there. Hot springs, just out in the desert. Just really broke down a lot of Oregon. I've done a little bit in Nevada when I went with you guys, but I don't even really count that as Nevada wheeling since it's like one trip. But yeah, but that, mostly Oregon and, been to Utah a few times. What about you, Ben?
Let's see. I've done Tahuya, a lot of the Cascades, like Surprise Lake, and what was it, Evans? A little bit of Evans I've gotten into, not much, not enough to get me into trouble. I've been a few places in western Montana, a little bit of Idaho, like northern Idaho, just outside of the Montana portion of it there, or like as you go from Montana into there. South Dakota, I got to play around in a little bit. Nothing hardcore or crazy there. Christmas Valley, Northwest Nevada, the backcountry discovery route for Washington, the Gifford Pinchot area, and for the Washington backcountry discovery route, I got almost all of it, but I had done that with the rest of. I'm pretty sure the rest of it I had done with Aaron when we did the Gambler 500 for Washington, because it was up in that area. I did a bunch of stuff in the Oregon Cascades during the Gambler 500. And that's really been about it. I've kind of stuck to like the same spots over and over and over again. Plus that Northwest Nevada trip with you guys. What about you, Aaron?
Well, I started out, Tahuya was like the very first place I took my Nissan off-road. So Tahuya. And you mentioned Evans. There's a wagon trail outside of Evans. I could not find it at all. And I can't think of what it's called. It's like wagon trail something. And I just remember you like start out by going up like a steep.
Mhm.
It might be by LB. I was hoping that you'd know what it's called.
That is LB, and I can't think of what it's called, but yeah.
Okay, if you think of it, I did that trail, which is a legitimate trail. That was a
Plus,
good one.
there's the snow trail by LB as well that we had been on, or well, it's
With
the road.
Wheeling with Warriors one.
No, with when we did that poker run, that's just outside.
Oh yeah, that's right. Barlow Trail, which isn't that impressive until you do it in a Volkswagen Beetle, a new Volkswagen Beetle. All over the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, lots of Central Oregon and Eastern Oregon. When I first got my rooftop tent, I circumnavigated Oregon in a counterclockwise route. Northern Nevada, a bunch.
Sorry, I just remembered something.
Done some Central and Eastern Washington. And then, of course, Coy mentioned Moab and the San Juan Mountains in Colorado. So what else do you think of?
I had forgotten that I'd been to Hawaii and got to go around the edge of so Honolulu. There used to be a freeway or highway that went around the island, circumvented the island, and a portion of it got wiped out. And so when I went to Hawaii, my cousin picked me up and we went wheeling. Where the highway had been wiped out, and it's just kind of sand dune-ish, rocky stuff. It was really fun.
Rick called it. It is the Natchez Wagon Trail. So I've done the Natchez Wagon Trail.
Oh, yep.
I took some scratches on that trip also on my truck. So let's talk about this is our last one here. Let's talk about places we want to go wheeling. So Ben, why don't you kick it off?
Oh, okay. So I was actually talking to the family about this. My wife and I's wedding anniversary is coming up, and we'd got and licenses so that you can go a land to Canada or Mexico. When we got married, almost 12 years ago now, and like, oh, we should get these enhanced licenses and go up to Canada and go to like Victoria or something for a weekend. And we've still yet to ever do any of that. We've stayed in the United States. So I would love to go up to Canada. There's a trail outside of BC called the Whipsaw Trail. Some friends of ours went and did that. There's like a cave that you can drive in near it at one point. It just sounds really cool. And to wheel in another country just sounds kind of cool, even though it's right there. Would be really fun. I would love to hit Moab. I would love to one day touch the Rubicon, and I would love to go down and hit Baja in Johnson Valley. There's a few trails in California where it's kind of a silly one, but it's like a cave that you can drive into. It's like an old salt cave, mining cave that you can drive into. And it's out. And then a big one for me is going back to Montana during the summer, and there's a trail that I found where it's like an old railroad cave that you can drive into. During the winter, it freezes all up because of the water. During the summer, you've got like 2 feet of water on the ground, and you can drive through it. Yep, water. Me. I need adult supervision.
Yep.
So, but every time we're in Montana, I just don't have enough time to make it there. So, yeah, one of those places I want to go. What about you, Aaron?
Well, you reminded me when you mentioned Baja. I forgot. I've wheeled down in Baja. I flew down and drove back. I was in a Nissan Xterra, a completely stock Nissan Xterra, but I did some went and visited some missions and stuff like that literally is you drive off road to get to these places, these villages in the middle of nowhere. But places I want to go, Sand Hollow is on my list for next year. I'm definitely aiming real hard to hit Sand Hollow next year. I don't know if I can get out to the Ozarks, but it would be amazing to get to the Ozarks. I hear they're fantastic. I hear there's a lot of cool things out there. I'd love to do that trip that we joked about last week, the fictitious Alaska trip. Man,
yep, all day, every day. That sounds fun.
Yeah, but for a trip like that, you really do need like 4 to 5 weeks to do something like that, because it takes several days just to get to Alaska. Then whatever you do up there, it's few and far between to get anywhere. So it's lots of driving to go see lots of abundance of nature. and then several more days home. So Alaska, I'd love to do every one of the back road discovery routes, the Oregon, the Washington, the Idaho. I think those would be amazing. I think there's a Nevada one as well. That would be another great one. I would love to do the Trans-America Trail. So that one starts, depending on who you talk to, it can even be at the East Coast, but usually it's somewhere just west of the East Coast, and it goes all the way horizontally across the United States and ends up at the Oregon. And then I've heard lots of good things about the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So that sounds like a whole lot of fun. And the last one would be a trip that I actually had to cancel because of COVID. The trip that I was supposed to be going on to now I forgot the name of the country I was supposed to go
Ireland?
to.
Scotland.
Scotland. So we had trucks rented and Airbnbs booked and everything, plane tickets bought, and then we didn't get to go to Scotland, and we were going to be spending 10 days in Scotland, and 6 of those days we're going to be driving a Land Rover Defender 110 with a rooftop setup, an overlanding kit, and everything that you can rent while you're out there. So I'd love to go see Scotland, and more for my wife. She loves the idea of it, the romantic idea of Scotland. So yeah. Coy, you're last. What do you got?
I had no idea Scotland was romantic.
Me neither.
You have to read books to know that, apparently.
Oh, it's the kilts. Gotcha. So I will copy Aaron once again. Ozarks is a big one for me. I'm going to put that right at the top of my list. My family is from Arkansas originally.
That's what's wrong with you.
That just made a lot of sense. Yeah.
Things are just, they're clicking
together. Yeah. I guess my pappy
like
ran booze.
Like some of your cousins.
Things
are clicking like some of your cousins.
Yeah. And then one that I have only recently become interested in, Arizona. I have been hearing some crazy stuff about Arizona and seeing some crazy pictures, some really cool off-road and old mines and stuff. I always thought it was like way too hot for me to go to Arizona and wheel, but I think Arizona is starting to get higher on my list and way up there. Sand Hollow. What was that, Ben?
I was gonna say, yeah, with when it was one of the guys that came on the show, he had gone down there with Jeff from Expedition Essentials, Nathan, when he went down there, and it was he managed to do a little bit of wheeling in Arizona, and it was pretty amazing, like the pictures they got and all that. And if you go at the right time of year, you might see the cactuses bloom.
Yeah, so I just keep hearing good things about Arizona. Sand Hollow, I'll probably go there with Aaron, to be honest. This is kind of probably my last Moab trip for a while. This fall, I'll hopefully knock out all the trails that I've been wanting to conquer, and then I want to check out Sand Hollow. Montana, I've heard some good things about. Wouldn't mind doing some wheeling there. I've also heard North and South Dakota, some really good stuff. And then kind of a bucket list one. My wife refuses to ever go to Mexico. But the Baja Peninsula Telegraph Road, during World War II, the American Army ran a telegraph line down the Baja Peninsula so that if they saw Japanese submarines like sneaking up the coast, they could warn America. So there's this old road, and all that's left are these power poles sticking out of the dunes, basically. But I hear it's a pretty good 4x4 track, and there's still like old cans and remnants of the Army building it. And I'd love to go drive that. And it's like right by the ocean and stuff. So that's probably going to be an all boys trip because I can't talk my wife into going to Mexico and getting kidnapped and putting a barrel and all that stuff with me. I think that pretty much covers kind of everything for me. Sorry, Death Valley. I want to go to Death Valley. I've never been.
Oh yeah,
That's probably for all of us. Valley's super
Rick,
cool.
Rick is your guide for that one.
I probably will.
Josh asks what the typical temperature is when we go winter camping. It's usually at 20 at night and low 30s during the day.
I mean,
where we go.
Winter camping in Oregon, you want to do in the snow, because if it's not, you're in the rain, and snow is way
correct.
better than rain. So sub freezing, and it's usually not that cold. So yeah,
Sub freezing, but you have to be like above the snow level, and it will stay snow.
Yeah. And when we do it, all it's going to get is maybe in the teens. It rarely dips in the teens. Like, it's maybe the low 20s, but it's pretty rare that it drops in the teens while we're doing that kind of camping.
I think the lowest of camping is like 19. Like, it's not that.
It doesn't get that cold here unless you're on top of like Mount Rainier. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for listening and hanging out for a super long episode. We are just such interesting people that there's so much to talk about ourselves about. So, lots to talk about. I'm just kidding. But it is a lot of fun putting this all to paper. We've got listeners. Some people haven't heard about our builds or about our trips or where we've come from and how we got here. So we kind of just wanted to recap that. We figured it'd be a great number 400 episode.
400, man. I just got a Facebook memory that popped up for that for the first time I tried taking over the podcast after Greg and Jeff left. 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Way too long.
That's a long time ago. Well, we appreciate you guys. Please make sure you're sharing us with your friends and helping the show grow. And God bless America.
Don't forget to visit Patriot Patch and join the Patch of the Month Club. Check out our Gaia affiliate link for up to 40% off. Also, don't forget to head over to Warren Medical Gear Outfitters and Colby Valve to see all their great gear. We're a proud part of the Firearms Radio Network. Got a comment or question? Send it to us through our webpage at firearmsradio.net or through our social media channels by searching for Off-Road Podcast. Also, you can listen to us live at overlandradio.com Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. When off-road, please remember to have fun, tread lightly, be safe, and courteous. Thanks for listening.
And next week, we've got a guest coming on to talk about the Wrecker games that just took place in Sand Hollow.